Reading again from Luke 10. A man, an expert in the law, stood up and said, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus said, "Well, what is written in the law? How do you read it?" The answer was, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." And Jesus said, "That's right. Do this and you will live." But the man said, "Who is my neighbor?" A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he fell into the hands of robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him near death. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed on the other side of the road. A Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side of the road. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wound, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, took him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out some money and gave it to the innkeeper, saying, "Look after him. When I return, I will pay you any extra you may have spent." Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? And the lawyer said, "The one who had mercy on him." And Jesus said, "Go, do likewise." Word from the Lord in the house. I love the story of the Sunday school teacher who read the story of the Good Samaritan and said to a little girl in class, "What would you do if you came upon a man lying bloody on the road?" And she said, "I'd throw up." Not what we're supposed to do as Good Samaritan. Amos was a prophet, and God said to Amos, "I'm going to drop a plumb line for my people." I don't know how many of you use a plumb line to put up a wall or a hanging. It makes things perfectly straight. And God wasn't talking about building walls or building houses. He was talking about this is the way it's going to be. No deviations, no variations. My people will follow the plumb line or else. We got a lot of or else's in the Old Testament. And how many times did they check out to see what or else was going to be? You know the old story that the guy who was in the bar and he had a long list of names on paper, and somebody said, "What's that?" He said, "That's a list of all the people in this town that I can whip." And the guy said, "Am I on the list?" And he said, "Let me see." "Yep, there you are." He said, "You can't whip me." He said, "Okay, I'll pick your name off the list." We don't need to be that wishy-washy about our concern for our relationship with Christ. We don't need to be that wishy-washy about, well, am I being a good Samaritan when I don't give the guy up by Walmart or by Safeway $5 or $10 as he's standing on the corner saying, "I'm hungry," and then he will beg for food. Doesn't say he's going to work for it, but oh yeah, he said he would. But what is our opportunity to be a good Samaritan? How many times have we been like the priest and walked around it on the other side? Now, the priest had a reason for not being a good Samaritan. He had a reason for not touching the bruised and bloody man, because if he had gotten any blood on him, he would have not been able to conduct services in the temple for at least 3 years before he could get clean. 3 years. Now, there are so many priests that it may have been he may have been going to the temple the only time in his lifetime that he would be allowed to conduct services in the temple, because there were so many priests that he had to get in line to do it, and it might have lost his one chance in a lifetime of doing what he had trained himself all his lifetime to do. So maybe that's a good reason for not getting close to the bloody man. Is conducting the service, is leading a band, is being important enough reason for us to ignore our fellow man? Or how about the lawyer who said, don't know how to get involved in this? When we were younger and we had 2 young kids, we'd gone to some friend's house for the evening, and on our way home it was kind of rainy and slick, and a Corvette went right by us about that fast. And about 1.5 miles down the road, we found the Corvette up against a light pole, telephone pole, whatever, utility pole of some kind. And my wife is a registered nurse who said, I can't touch him. Because if something goes wrong, we could be sued. I'm not a nurse, so I got out. I took our little boy's blanket and held it on the guy's head until the ambulance got there, because my wife took the car and went up where she'd seen a light and used the phone and called, and the ambulance came and we left. And the lady where she called was an acquaintance of ours who said that was about 11 o'clock at night, and she couldn't go back to bed and nobody went by before dawn. If we hadn't stopped, he would have been there bleeding from the head wound. Was she a bad Good Samaritan? Because I can't do that. Do we couch everything we do in legalistic terms? Do we have to have a reason to not do things so that we can avoid doing things? Are we so limited in our love that we fear those kinds of consequences before we put ourselves out for someone? Now, Illinois has since passed the Good Samaritan law, so now she could do it. I don't know whether Arizona has one. So trained people can do what they need to do. But sometimes, like the Levite, the expert in law, knew that he could be held liable. And he backed away from responsibility. God doesn't want us backing away from our responsibility to be good Samaritans. I almost said good citizens, but that's not what he wants out of us. What must I do to have everlasting life? What must I do to inherit the kingdom of God? I must love my Lord, my God, with all of my being, and love my neighbor as myself. And Jesus said, who is your neighbor? Now I feel really justified sometimes when I see the same guy who's stranded looking for gas money, and he's been there 7 days with the same sign. And I think, yeah, I don't believe that. We moved here in '96. And when we moved here, some of you may have had this experience. When you moved here, people came to see you, right? And you ran to the airport in Vegas to pick them up. And you went and you turned off on Tropicana to go to the airport, because 215 didn't exist. And there was a guy there with the sign that said, homeless, need help, and so forth. And the next time we went by, the sign was there, but it was a different guy. They worked shifts. I got really jaded about that time and thought, they don't need it there. Who knows, he had his Mercedes parked around the corner, I suppose, or whatever. But we get just a jaded view of what people do because we don't believe that they can be as bad off as they say they are. There's a story I heard of the man who was approached, and the guy said, I've got 6 kids and we have no food. I just need a few dollars to get them something to eat for a while. And so the guy reached in his pocket and gave the money. And his friend said, why did you do that? They're probably lying too. And the man said, oh, I hope they were. I don't want anybody to be in that kind of a position. We hear stories. We see stories lived out at the food pantry, in the office, of people who are desperate. Desperate. And we wish they weren't. And we see the guy or the lady beside the road with the sign and the dog and the cigarette down there. That's what gets me. I'll take away those things and say just the sign. And we think, are they really stranded by the road? Are they that desperate? And you hope they're lying to you. Because you don't want anybody to be in that position. We've been called by a lady who's looking for a place to stay because she's supposed to teach at the New Indian School. That will open August 1st. She's coming from Georgia. Doesn't have a place to live yet. Has some restrictions. She's looking for a room to rent so she can find housing. I would imagine finding housing here, living in Georgia, is pretty tough. Because the people who live here can't find housing. She's not desperate. She has a job. Not desperate. She has a car. And yet she's desperate by circumstance. Does she need a good Samaritan? Who needs a good Samaritan? I'm going to ask, does Philip need a good Samaritan? Not bruised and bloody, but needy. It isn't important. They don't have to be on death's door. They don't have to be beaten by society. They don't have to be crippled or anything else to need someone who can care. That's what the Good Samaritan story is about. It's about someone who cares. Not someone who pays, not someone who walks away, but someone who cares. And that's what God asks us to do. And love your Lord, your God, with all of your being, and love your neighbor as yourself. If you can do that, you're a good Samaritan. Now, Samaritans the reason that it's so unusual about the story being about a Samaritan is that the Samaritans and the Jews hated each other. And the Jews walked by, and the Samaritan stopped to help the Jew who was hurt. See, love doesn't follow religious lines. Love doesn't follow different sects or different beliefs. Love is universal. And if we don't have that kind of love, we're going to be hard-pressed to be the Samaritans we need to be. For it isn't the life that the Samaritan saved that was important in this story. It is for that guy. But the important part of the story that Jesus told was about the love that has manifested itself because someone cares. It's easy to give a man with a sign a $10 bill or a $5 bill. It's easy to write a check for someone if you've got money in your bank account. It's hard to care because it means you've opened your heart for her. And when our hearts are broken, then we need the Samaritan who can pick us up. We need the Samaritan who can put us together. We need the Samaritan who will stop and give us the time of day, the time of love. Yeah, Jesus or God dropped the plumb line and said, this is it. You will not deviate or else. The plumb line still exists, but love conquers when we deviate. Love conquers when we care. Love conquers when you have people around you, or you can be the one around them who makes a difference in their lives. Or like the little girl, you can just throw up. No. We're not called to give up. We're not called to throw up. We're not called to back off. We're called to care enough to understand. Care enough to be involved. Care enough to take a chance. It isn't about fixing a hurt or a bleeding person. It's about caring for everyone. For everyone bleeds sometime. Everyone.